Good evening, and welcome to DV Real News TV. I'm Jojo Zaza reporting live from our global headquarters. Tonight, all eyes are on Burkina Faso, where the streets of the capital, Ouagadougou, have transformed into a sea of support for transitional leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. In a powerful and coordinated display of loyalty, thousands of demonstrators have flooded public squares, major intersections, and government landmarks, chanting slogans in favor of the military government and denouncing what they describe as foreign interference and internal betrayal. Today, April 30th, marks what many are calling a day of patriotic resistance, a mass civic response to the political pressures and instability that have plagued the West African nation for the past year. These demonstrations come just months after the government claimed to have foiled a coup attempt allegedly orchestrated by rogue military elements. Since then, the Traoré-led junta has tightened security across key military installations, detained several suspects, and frozen the assets of over 100 individuals tied to the alleged plot. Now, the streets are speaking back, and their message is loud and clear. They stand with the captain. This isn't just a political demonstration, it's a rallying cry. Protesters of all ages, from youth leaders to traditional elders, have joined forces. Many hold placards with inscriptions like "Sovereignty or Death," "Burkina Faso is not for sale," and "Hands off our leader." Some participants are draped in the national tricolor, others beat djembes and shout praises for the country's armed forces. One of our correspondent, SODEM, is on the ground in Ouagadougou. Hello SO, what is the situation?
Jojo, can you hear me? What we're seeing here is extraordinary. The protesters began gathering early this morning, and the turnout is growing. The movement has taken another tone of national rebirth, a push not just in defense of Ibrahim Traoré, but in rejection of what they see as years of dependency, insecurity, and foreign domination. As you can see, many are calling for unity in the face of adversity and see this government as their last chance at stability and independence.
Thank you, Esso. Now, let's place this moment in context. Captain Ibrahim Traoré assumed power in September 2022 after leading a successful coup against then-leader Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba, citing continued failures to contain extremist violence and restore order. Since then, Traoré has pledged to restore national pride and defend the country against jihadist incursions that have displaced millions and killed thousands since 2015. However, Traoré's rise has not gone without scrutiny. International organizations and some domestic groups have raised concerns over delayed elections, restricted press freedoms, and growing alignment with non-traditional partners. Still, today's public turnout appears to reflect strong grassroots backing, especially in light of recent destabilization threats. According to analysis of political scientists, I quote, "What we're seeing is part of a larger Sahelian trend, a wave of anti-Western, pro-sovereignty sentiment that's driving civil-military unity. The population sees Traoré not just as a soldier, but as a symbol of resistance to external dictates. These mass protests serve as both a shield and a statement, deterring coup attempts while projecting strength. However, the challenge remains: can popular support sustain good governance and peace?" Powerful insights, DR of political scientist in the country comment. While today's protests are a clear sign of support, they also underline the country's ongoing fragility. The military junta, now operating under the alliance of Sahel states with Mali and Niger, has cut ties with the ECOWAS bloc, choosing instead to forge a new regional alliance based on mutual defense and shared ideology. This shift has reshaped West African diplomacy and security dynamics, and critics argue it may isolate Burkina Faso further from development assistance and international cooperation. Still, for many citizens, the promise of self-rule and security outweighs those concerns, at least for now. We turn our attention to U.S. Ukraine resource partnership. In a bold move aimed at reinforcing economic resilience and post-war reconstruction, the United States and Ukraine have formalized a comprehensive strategic agreement focused on the extraction and development of critical minerals, elements essential for everything from clean energy storage to semiconductors, weapons systems, and electric vehicles. Earlier today in Kiev, officials from both nations jointly announced the creation of the United States-Ukraine Recovery and Critical Resources Fund, an initiative designed to drive billions in long-term investments into Ukraine's mineral wealth and channel those profits into national reconstruction. Under this bilateral arrangement, Ukraine will retain ownership over its natural resources, while both countries will hold equal decision-making rights within the investment structure. Importantly, all profits generated from these ventures will be reinvested entirely within Ukraine, with no corporate taxation or international deductions, a move being celebrated in Kiev as a breakthrough for sovereignty and sustainable recovery. Analysts say this move signals a shift in how Western alliances are now structuring post-conflict economic recovery, favoring joint resource management rather than aid dependency. The deal aligns closely with Ukraine's broader effort to position itself not just as a war-torn nation, but as a future hub of strategic materials and an indispensable link in the West's technology supply chain. What exactly are critical minerals, and why is this deal so important? These include elements such as lithium, titanium, cobalt, graphite, and rare earth metals, substances that are vital to the global push for green technology, battery innovation, and AI computing. Ukraine holds some of the largest untapped reserves of these materials in Europe. However, development has been hindered for decades due to underinvestment, political instability, and more recently, war. Now, with backing from the United States, that picture may be changing. It's worth noting that a significant portion of these mineral deposits, including graphite and titanium-rich zones, lie in eastern regions that are either under Russian occupation or close to active conflict zones. Ukrainian leaders argue that reclaiming and securing these territories is not only about sovereignty but about controlling future economic lifelines. What makes this partnership unique is not just the mineral access, it's the framework. This is not a lease, nor a one-sided export agreement. It's a dual governance investment model designed to guarantee that the Ukrainian people directly benefit from the wealth beneath their soil. Ukraine's Prime Minister Denys Shmyhal called the deal a balanced and fair agreement between allies, and emphasized that it respects Ukraine's long-term sovereignty and economic integrity. In Washington, White House officials hailed the agreement as a strategic anchor for Europe's clean energy transition and global mineral independence. U.S. Commerce representatives said this model could serve as a template for future alliances in Africa and Southeast Asia, where resource-rich nations seek equitable investment deals. This comes just months after reports suggested diplomatic strain, with critics accusing the U.S. of attempting to pressure Kiev into handing over exclusive mining rights. But today's announcement appears to signal a reset, a shift from resource leverage to resource collaboration. This deal reverberates far beyond the Ukrainian border. By securing access to an allied supply of minerals, the U.S. moves one step closer to reducing its dependence on China, currently the world's dominant supplier of rare earths and other critical raw materials. Simultaneously, Ukraine boosts its post-war economic recovery trajectory without losing autonomy. Let go to expert insight, Dr. of Geopolitics and Energy Security Analyst, I quote, "This partnership is a game changer. It's not just about money. It's about mapping a new world order around technological sovereignty. The age of fossil fuel dominance is fading. Critical minerals are the new battleground. The initial phase of this partnership will focus on surveying, mapping, and securing existing mineral deposits, including creating safety zones around extraction sites. Ukraine is expected to host international investors and technology partners in the coming months, with environmental oversight included in the agreement. Meanwhile, NATO allies are expected to offer military and logistical support to safeguard mineral transport routes in and around contested zones, potentially expanding the alliance's footprint in a new and more resource-centric capacity. As the world transitions into an energy-efficient era, nations with the right minerals and the right partners will shape tomorrow's markets. For Ukraine, this deal may mark the beginning of a recovery rooted not just in rebuilding the past, but in owning the future. For DV Real News TV, I'm Jojo Zaza. As this strategic alliance unfolds, we'll continue to follow its impact on geopolitics, markets, and the future of global technology. Stay tuned as we bring you more from the front lines of international transformation. Good night.